I have this conference now. I will call you in a while.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, Europe, and good evening, India. You're watching the Policy Times Unleashing India Global Web Summit series. COVID 19 is not only a disaster, but has also divided the world into two era, the time into two era. One is pre-COVID, the other is post-COVID. The post-COVID era, just like the world wars have changed the history and the course of economic, political, and social direction. I think Corona is giving an equal impact in terms of how the world will be in future. Will be very much exciting and interesting to watch out for. Now there are two continents, or in fact, I would say continent because India is not less than a continent. India, combining all the South Asian countries, is a beautiful continent with immense possibilities and resources. On the other hand, there is another continent or area or region or geography called European Union or Europe, which has proved its potential, the largest economic powerhouse of the world, combining all countries together in the European Union. Now, the interesting fact is how these two regions or unions bring or build partnership for mutual growth and development. Europe has its own advantages and limitations. India, combining all the South Asian countries, have its own advantages and weaknesses. How both can complement and bring mutual growth is what that we will try to discuss today. And to discuss this, we have two great intellectuals, thinkers from Europe, who will share their view from the European perspective. And we equally have a great thinker from India, Dr. P. Shekhar, who will share the Indian perspective and try to find some complementary, common foundations for mutual growth and development. And together, if India and Europe comes together, I think this will be a miracle post COVID. And this kind of relationship is absolutely much needed and hugely beneficial. That is what we are going to discuss. I want to present a couple of facts, uh, but before that, let me introduce our speakers. I would request Dr. Shekhar to introduce our speakers with more details. Dr. Shekhar needs no introduction. He is a modern thinker from India, has written more than 120 books on different issues connected to nation building and national development, and also chairman of Unleashing India and Global Smart City Panel. He worked with policymakers in India. He was part of policymaking in India for long. He was also one of the architects of building the India's IT infrastructure that we have today. And Lena Deros and Basil Koronakis, thank you so much for joining. I'm not introducing again uh, philosophy. She's expert in global philosophy, founder, president of OmniLink, and Dr. Basil needs no introduction, award-winning author and on you and a publisher in New Europe. A couple of facts: India and EU has very extensive and long relation. The foreign direct investment between both countries is huge. Europe has invested more than $80 billion to India, but a little comparison with China, Europe has invested $120 billion. So we would be very interested, very much interested to know that how do we increase European investment in India and Indian investment in Europe. No doubt, Europe is India's largest trading partner with more than 12.5% trade share, approximately more than $100 billion trade between the two, between India and European Union. It is also the largest, one of the largest sources of FDI. Now, it will be interesting to see that how Corona, which has a huge impact, political, economic, and medical, post corona, one important discussion that is before us is, can EU and India sign an FTA and what would that FTA bring for the knowledge sharing perspective between the both continent in terms of benefit. India has also brought Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is a massive policy, and we would be extremely interested to see how Europe can help India become the global manufacturing hub of the world. So, with this, I would really like to request Dr. P. Shekhar to kindly take over the session and introduce our speakers.
Thank you, Akram. Technically, today will be the 48th session, and today's session has got a very, very interesting topic and the speakers. This, as you can see, first I'll rush through this small presentation. We are saying that enhanced role for India EU strategic planning, knowledge sharing with expansion on business funding for global reincarnation. Now, the words have been coined in such a way that what India can play, what EU can play, and how both of us can make global reincarnation possible. As you know, India and EU has had a very strange relationship. To put it very crudely, India and EU had the relationship of a prey and a predator ages ago. Okay. And in this, coincidentally, we were the prey and Europe was the predator. Okay. And with time, things have changed. India has commanded its own respect, and Europe has also given a lot of respect back to India. And it has been a very, very healthy relationship in the last, at least post-independent era. Now, while talking of this, we will slightly understand what is European Union and what is India, and where do we come in picture. Now, European Union has got, almost 27 countries put together with 447 million people spread over 22 million square kilometers. Okay. Same thing translated to India India is one country with almost 3 times the population with almost 1/6 the area. Okay. So there is lot of disparity between the numbers. But what is it that is attracting the two relationship? That is, Indians are basically a very, very well-knit, intelligent, and highly knowledge-based community. And coincidentally, before even introducing my two guests, these two guests are from Europe and from Greece. Greece and India had excellent relationship even 4,000 years back. Okay. And we have an ongoing, Greece also was the knowledge power for Europe, and India was the knowledge power, as is being said, for the world itself. So India and Europe did have a this relation, but with Greece there was always a high level of knowledge sharing, and they were not part of the prey and predator system. So we are talking all this thing from the point of view of today, COVID, which has brought down the economy of the whole world, including India and Greece, including India and Europe, including USA, and including whatever places it got originated from that point of view. But it is like a World War III. It has attacked all of us. There is no military, no gunshot, no nothing, but it has come down. The strangest thing is Europe, which is highly affected by COVID, is only 2% affected. And India is also affected by COVID. It is only 0.4%. So in terms of numbers, none of us understand why such small numbers are creating such a big. They should be solved, but they need not create the type of panic which it has created, and the type of slashing of economy from top to bottom that has happened. Everybody, I'm sure, all are sitting from home and operating. Otherwise, something like this should have been a mega show in a public environment, which is not. It's there. At the same time, one thing good, which is being appreciated world over, is that India has succeeded with all its population, with all its nearness to the source, on a very magnanimous level. India is only affected to the level of 0.4%. And even out of this 0.4%, hardly 1% is death by COVID. Okay. So the death by COVID in the normal in India per day, 27,000 people die, 75,000 people are born. And even in the worst of the COVID times, Indians, about 1,100 Indians died out of COVID. And normally the average is hardly about 60. So India has not been so in terms of numbers been affected. Psychologically, yes, India is affected. Now, for such a forum, in terms of two experts from Europe of the highest order on the going to speak, so I will rush through some of the slides. One or two slides I'll take a little more time. This economy works by the people and the way we look at the development of the planet. Yes, this is a complex slide which I would not, many of the slides I will not go through. And India's relationship in the last 60, 70 years through Europe has been really good. And even the export figures, trading figures, and all are growing by the day, growing by the hour. But it needs to be added in a very big way. So what we are all dreaming is almost a $1 trillion between India and Europe, which is very, very high. And there, which again means that we are putting 1 0 on the right side. And India has invented zero, and we have no problem in putting 1 0 on the right side, for the good of both the worlds. Because we have got a bigger agenda between India and Europe. Without naming any country, we all know that we are all attacked on a geopolitical situation, and where if we do not save ourselves, we will both be eaten, and we will both be in prey and predator. We will all be prey. Predator is somebody else. So that being the case, the necessity is the mother of invention. We have to necessarily collaborate with each other. We are not neither India is doing a favor to Europe, nor Europe is doing a favor to India. For both of our survival with time, we need to take things on a much different, which is being done. That is why this is the starting of many things which are being planned. So as we know, India is a 1 point almost 4 billion people country, and India has got almost a captive 600 million people are the youngsters, and which is really good. And Europe has its own plus point, has its own prosperity of a different grade, even, and also trade between India and Europe is reasonably good. It is touching almost $100 billion, and it has got various facets and various ways in which it can be enhanced. It is not something which we have to be complacent on. It is a good starting point we have got. We are not starting from zero. We are starting from 100. 100 to $1 trillion is something which will be really good. Yes, very, very ambitious, very, very, very ambitious, and which we can do because today, as I said, necessity is the mother of invention. We have to invent ways of doing it. We have to invent ways of, making it happen. Otherwise, both of us would be in trouble. Okay, and here knowledge sharing is going to be of a very ultimate level. Gone are those days when either we can claim India is giving knowledge to the world or world is giving knowledge to the India. India is in its own capability of giving knowledge in various sectors, and other countries, and especially Europe, has got so many plus points which it can bring to India. And here, funding is something where we know that a lot of funding is in Europe have set base in India, and they all want to do highest level of funding for Indian companies, Indian establishments, Indian government, and so on and so forth. So I would go directly to this knowledge sharing, various sectors and all we have to take care, which all, and India, various states are there in India, as you all know. And these states have to be taken care because every state has got their own policies, but overall governed by the Indian government. Now, what we are talking, of course, is we are saying that we should have almost a $1 trillion business between the two. Now, secure governance is going to play a very, very big role. Secure governance is something where we are talking of self-sustained economy. Self-sustained economy means, where, the value that is created by any infrastructure, the huge valuation goes up because of the value. And this valuation is taken care to see that the value itself comes almost free. Otherwise, the type of money which is required can never come through taxing system because India needs huge, if it has to come to the world grade in terms of infrastructure, it needs trillions and trillions. And that can come through secure governance, where every business establishment, when they invest money, they will get good returns and they are not touching on each other's pocket. So there's both a value and value-based, valuation-based system. And in this, the two experts we have, they are publisher and associate publisher of a very prestigious magazine called New Europe, and plus many more things they both are doing. And they are fully welcome. They also would like to come to India. I would like to know their thoughts on this. And the two speakers today, experts are, Basil Koronakis. Yes, his name is Corona. But we should also know what is the meaning of the word corona. Corona means crown. Corona is not whatever we are talking of. Corona is something negative. Corona is absolutely positive. It is a Latin word and it has got a composites in every sectors. In physics it is different, in architecture it is different, in philosophy it is different, but everywhere it means something positive. Even in astrophysics it is, the sun's, the rays which come out, they are all called corona. So corona is something which is good. Unfortunately, the something which has come in terms of a virus has really made the word very frightful. And Basil is a very simple man, and he need not be frightened. He need not create any fright to the people. Now, I would like him to be the first speaker. And Basil is a good publisher of the new magazine, and he's also an author of various other books also. And he's an award-winning, and even at 81 years, he is fully active. He is not taking rest on any time, any day, and fully available for the world to grow. And I'm sure in his lifetime, he will see India, Europe, and Europe itself growing into a different glory. Both our speakers today are from Greece, and Greece, of course, has got an excellent relation with India, even though the Greek economy is on a slightly on a downward trend. And I'm sure they will take advantage of India's growth and make Greek economy also grow up and Europe economy also to grow. And I'll give a 2-minute introduction on my other speaker who will come a little later, Lina Deros. And she is again a very mature person in terms of her involvement in finance. And she has got her own boutique finance companies. And she's doing an excellent job in terms of being an associate producer, associate publisher of this magazine. And she's again, very strangely speaking, she's also a scholar in Sanskrit. And Sanskrit is one of the most difficult languages and one of the oldest languages in India. In Indian literature, Vedas, everything are written in Sanskrit. And I'm sure she can, if she conducts a course in Sanskrit, she'll have more Indians attending than maybe Europeans. She'll be the second speaker. So let me welcome Basil to give his purview, and then we go to Lina. Thank you.
So thank you very much. I'm very glad to be with you today. And I will talk a little bit about the general situation, how I view the general situation, and how I view the relations of India with Europe and the world. But let me first introduce myself. I am the publisher of New Europe newspaper. We have a newspaper, we have various other media. So the newspaper is now 27 years old. In my life, I did a few different things. I started academic career in Italy. I'm an hydraulic engineer. And then I moved and I worked for 10 years for the US government, a completely different subject in foreign affairs and State Department area. And then after some time, I decided to get into the publishing business by myself. I started some English language publications in Greece, and then I moved in Belgium some 25 years ago. And here we are. Now I have a very good knowledge of the world. I work, as I told you, in Italy, in the United States, in Europe, in Brussels, and of course in Greece. I believe that you count a lot, you rely a lot upon Europe, and Europe right now is in a kind of decay, if I may speak how I feel the things. You see, Europe has been under a very tough austerity for many years. They wanted to solidify the euro currency, and the result is that we are full of overregulation. We are suffering an increasing democratic deficit. We have lost our politicians. Europe is now ruled by technocrats, and this is very bad. I believe this is very bad. Technocrats, it is a kind of machine that is self-reproduced. Europe is the most sophisticated administrative machine of the world, but it is not political. Back during the Cold War years, we had very good politicians. We had Thatcher, we had Mitterrand, we had Kohl. Now what do we have today? Nothing. The best politician in modern times we had in Europe was the previous head of the Commission, Juncker, Jean-Claude Juncker. He's a politician, but he's over. Now we have only technocrats. And this is very bad for Europe. As a result, we are suffering a depletion of the middle class. Europe is losing the middle class, and the middle class is the backbone of the society. I could give a lot of explanations and say things about, but this is the essence. We have no politicians. We are run by administrators. We are suffering a growing democratic deficit on the excuse that combat terrorism, combat tax evasion, money laundering. We are under a lot of restrictions that are not useful for the purpose. Now, on the other hand, we have the United States. The United States, this recent election has proved that also in the United States they have problems of democratic deficit. You cannot have elections with demonstrations, with riots, and with questioning whether it was a fair election or not. We see the American media that have lost their impact. And this is the other thing. Then Russia is not in a position to have a leading role because, first of all, has a very bad past, and this past is following Russia and will be following Russia for many years. And on the other hand, China is under isolation from the West. President Trump declared practically a Cold War on China, that no matter what Mr. Biden will do, he will continue. He has no alternative but to continue because they have to contain China. It's not the economic threat, it is the political threat. And now, given that the Western society is entering into a new civilization, this is the time that everything is moving. Tapandari, everything is moving. And I think this is the time of India to get into a leadership role. Besides relations, besides economic relations, besides growth, the world needs to have leadership, a firm leadership. And India is in a position to play a role on that. I don't say that will be the leader of the world, but can have a leadership role because it's big, has a growing democracy, a developing democracy, and also has a very well-trained personnel, is productive, is fitting to the new style of society, because the new society, I think, will be minimalistic, will not be exaggerated. We are living in exaggeration in our days. Everything is exaggerated. Now, everything will go on moderation. Everything will go on a compromise. And I think under the circumstances, India can play a real leading role and can formulate this and contribute to the formulation of this new civilization. This is for the time what I wanted to say, and I would like to pass back the word to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Basil. Now I would request Madam Lina to give her little of her background also in terms of how she has come into her present positioning, and then of course in today's pandemic situation, how and what way we are doing, and bring to the comfort level to the world that through whatever we are trying to do, you are all trying to do, how the world will be a better place to live. Madam Lina.
Thank you, Dr. Sekar. Well, I had a very, uh, uh, I would say, adventurous life in terms of business because I was born into a business family and I did business administration as a first degree. But then I was involved in things that had to do with fashion and publishing. But during the 80s, I got again involved into education in things that had to do with philosophy and political economy. And then I was involved into international trade through commodities. I was doing some oil trading in this part of the world that brought me in the early 90s to finance through one of the top American companies at the time that wanted somebody in my country. That means that I was involved in, capital markets and things that had to do with finance. And in the mid 90s, I also formed the first boutique investment bank in Greece. And that is when things in the capital market started being introduced into my country. Of course, in many cases and in many countries, this has been abused and overused. And that has created many of the problems that we're facing in the financial world today, as also in many of the other, different stock markets in the world. So that gives me somehow a better view of the world, because it combines things that started from retail, going to international trade, and then going to finance, that normally should be what gives credit to the production level, so that the people that are working in the production level can have the support of funding, so that they can be and can use their own intelligence and their own charismas, so that they will produce good things for the world. So this is a normal, physical thing that should be in a country, which is not what we're facing today, because many of the different sectors have lost the real role. Banks are not at the level that they should be. They are somehow competing with the production level, because they're running after their price as they are listed, which they shouldn't be, because listing is mainly for manufacturing. And also, the same way that we see this downfall in production, we see the same downfall in politics, because people that are entering into politics, unfortunately, have no idea of the science of political economy, which is basically the main thing that they should know before entering into things that have to do with either legislation or, implementing. And I have to agree in many levels and many of the things that Mr. Koronakis said. But if we look at technocrats can be useful for the administration, not though for the legislation, because if you want somebody who will implement legislation, you need somebody who understands how to implement. But you cannot have technocrats on the level of legislation, because there you need people who have a broader view of society, needs, and things that will really make people prosperous and happy, because this is the role of a government. Now, if we come to what we are facing today, I think that as in every negative thing, you have a positive. I think that there are some positive things that we can look into this corona pandemic. One thing is how you face it. I'm not going to go into that, because many people are talking every day about it. But again, as Mr. Koronakis said, we are facing a new normal. We are facing new status of the societies that, due to today's conditions in the world, are coming into a new way of working, like, remote working, like other things. Consumption is different than it used to be. And we cannot deny that we are into a globalization. But this also is the surface. Education that you touched is a very important aspect in when people come together. And education basically is not what you learn so that you do your business in the right way. Education means values, principles, things that can be in common when people come together. Because if you don't have common principles, and if you don't have these common values, then it's impossible for people to communicate, because they say A, and whoever listens understands B, and then repeats that, and then goes to C, and then nobody understands what you're talking about. So Education is very important, and here I will come to the relationship of India with Europe and Greece. India has a very strong and long tradition, goes ages back. And you have offered to the world a lot of your knowledge. And this is a base of, education. So the fact that India has given these things to the world, and the fact that Greece also has given values and ideas to the world, bring them together so that they could create, if possible, a platform that can be global. If this platform can be translated into today's words and give people values that are ageless, because values are not something that is changing with the technology, and people can base their communication and can base their business and everything else into those values, then the world will be a better place. And here, communication and technology is helping a lot of people to come together, even if they're not the one next to the other, as we now are in different parts of the world, but we are coming together and we are exchanging ideas. So this is important. Now, Greece also is geopolitically in a position that links three continents because it's on the southeast part of Europe, it is close to Africa, and also it's next to Asia. So Greece can be, in terms of understanding and platform or knowledge, as we said, but also as a corridor, can be a hub for giving services and products to the other continents. You need some people in politics to understand that. That's not always easy. But if people that are in the production field can come together and create a strong base, then this can be good for the whole globe. I mean, we can start from our own yard, and you start with India from the one side, and we will be on the other side. And this can really become, as I said before, a hub that can then expand to the other continents. I don't know if I need to say any other details, but I think that this is the basics that we can discuss, and I'm open to any questions or any other
No, no,
questions.
no. You have said enough for the first portion. Second, of course, we will come after Basil. Now, Ms. Basil, now, as we go forward, how you think, you know, we get into a situation in which Greece benefits, EU benefits, and globe benefits? The type of initiatives that can be taken. One is, of course, broadly speaking, yes, we are talking of industrial growth. We are not talking of anything. Now, industrial growth, even education is coming as an industry nowadays. Health is coming as an industry. And whatever we say, even religion is coming as an industry, which should not be. But today, yes, for some reason, even religion is a big industry by itself. As you all know, that people say the amount of gold with an Indian housewife has got, it is more than USA, IMF, and Germany put together. Okay, so it's an industry. The religious places also have got gold and anything in a big matter. So these are all something which should be capitalized. See, without spoiling the way religion is there. Religion need not be the way it is being understood. Religion can also do a development work. So in fact, I've written a book on religion saying that every religion institution should have their own education, healthcare, wherever the returns are long term should be taken from the religion point of view. So that apart, that may or may not come in our today's discussion. In what all ways, EU, because as I again repeat, when I started, we had a prey-predator relationship long back. Okay, we cannot say that India and Europe had a congenial relationship in the beginning, but it has gone beyond a very, very friendly relation in today's condition. So today, Indians are welcomed in Europe, and Europeans are highly welcomed and respected in India. but it has not got translated into the type of economic prosperity which should have come to both of us. And we are both forced by third forces by which we are compulsorily to make 1 plus 1 11 situation. So I would like Basil to give his second view in terms of what are the operational steps, because you are also running a successful magazine. That too, I think that magazine portion is through Brussels, which is one of the most prosperous countries in Europe. In terms of the thinking of the people, investors, and their expectation, and the what is it that India can offer, and how both together can make the world a better place. Mr. Basil.
Yes, first of all, the world needs leadership. This is the most important thing. Leadership that is respected by the citizens and can drive the citizens to prosperity. Unfortunately, Europe cannot offer that. I say that with very, I'm disappointed because I see the situation from within Europe. And we are in bad need of leadership. A few years ago, Germany was leading Europe and was driving Europe in one way or another, good or bad, doesn't matter. It was a leadership. After Mrs. Merkel decided to withdraw, she couldn't find a succession. Germany is going into a big crisis. They have no leaders. They have problems. They have problems with the Muslim community, which are growing. And probably one day they are going to have a new leader that will come probably from Bavaria or somewhere else, strong, tough, and who will create an enemy in order to unite Germany. And that enemy probably will be a religious enemy, and that will be very bad for Germany, very bad for Europe. The UK is out. The UK for years, in the United Kingdom, was keeping Europe without a common foreign policy and without a common defense policy. They wanted that way because it were the interests of NATO to control these kind of things. Now Europe has no foreign policy, has no defense policy, and has no immigration policy. And under the circumstances has big problems. France cannot replace Germany in the leadership of Europe because although France is very strong, has ideas and believes in things, France is very weak internally. You see, a strike of the truckers is enough to paralyze France, and it is very difficult for a country that cannot control its own yard to control and to play a role in a wider role. So that's why I believe we need a leadership, we need some directions. Certainly will not be one country to lead the world, will be a multipolar leadership. And in this context, I think that India can play a role. Yes, Europe can offer many things, but not the things we need now. You see, for instance, we have a commissioner for the European quality of life. What quality of life? We have no security. We have a depletion of the middle class. We are losing our values. We believe in nothing. What quality of life? We don't have a strong commissioner for immigration to resolve the problem. We have a huge problem with immigration in Europe. And nobody wants to realize that, because if they start discussing, they have to find a solution. And they cannot find a solution because they have to agree and they disagree on that. So this is the situation, I think. And I believe that we have to invest on education. We have to invest on the health of our citizens, and we have to invest in some new principles. We need to get a balance, to live together, to reach a compromise. We cannot confront each other anymore. We have to, in order to go, we are too many in the planet in order to confront each other. We cannot afford that. We have to work together. We have to take everything in a kind of, how to say, in a kind of measure, in a kind of moderation. Everything should be moderation. This is my understanding, and this, I think, should be the frame of our new civilization, because this new civilization will be coming, and your country has a long history and has to offer a lot of things, and we are expecting more than what you are expecting from us. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, coming back to Madam, uh, you see, two questions, of course. One is, since you are supposed to know Sanskrit, if it is possible, I would like you to say one or two sentences, if it is possible, in Sanskrit. And second, of course, is that you have had some practical experiences with Indian technology, Ayurveda, yoga, and so on and so forth. How is it that we can leverage this to, bring more the investing eye to both of us? Okay. Even though Greece is supposed to be low on economy, India is not something very big on economy. Because of India's population, some of the numbers look very much bigger than Greek numbers. Otherwise, we are also a struggling nation. We are also a nation which is yet to come to its real proper positioning. And of course, later I would like Mr. Basil also to think over, so that the last question will be more like, if India and Greek companies go together, will it command a high respect from the investing company? Okay. So I would like you to first, if possible, say one or two sentences in Sanskrit, and your own closeness to the Indian technology, which is more of this thing. And of course, the basic question is India, Europe, when they combine together, how they will be able to really make a mutual beneficial relationship and beneficial for the world to grow. Lina, ma'am.
Well, first of all, I would like to correct something that you said in the beginning, in the introduction. By all means, I'm not a scholar in Sanskrit, because a scholar in Sanskrit is something very, very important. I've just been,
Student.
reading and studying Sanskrit for many years. And there is a prayer that many people say every morning, which, if you want, I can recite, which is Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Makaschit Duhabhag Bhavet. So I don't know if you want to translate it,
No, no,
but
no, no, no. Please. Just,
so
just
that,
there, because our main agenda is something else.
that is
Okay.
a well wish for all the world and all the people to be happy and healthy. And as we touched the health sector, which I believe is very important, it is going to be more important as we go into the 21st century. And some of the real scholars of your country in health say that this century will face a lot of mental illness, because people, especially in the West, have lost the measure and discipline of the real life, because the body and the person is built in a way to follow the normal and physical conditions of the creation and the unit, which is the day and the night. So, if with the things that we're doing today in the West, we lost this measure, and we lost the measure in eating, in sleeping, in talking, almost in every one of the human points of behavior, that of course leads to sickness. And this is why we have so many people that are not in a good health today. And of course, there is some close relationship between what Ayurveda, which is your own science of health, and the Hippocratic, um, let us say, principles that come from ancient Greece have um, in common. And this is something that, if it is spread, I believe that it will help the global population and the well-being of the people. Because you see, I don't think that people today know what health is. And Ayurveda is the only science that is giving a pro, let's say, an example of health. Because unfortunately, the Western medicine is working by statistics. And you check a few things and then you say so many people have that or so many people have that, so this is something which is normal. It is not normal. You have to know what health is so that you know if you have gone astray this way or the other. So one thing also that is very important is to use kind of help and medication that is also easily absorbed by the human body, and this is physical medication. Ayurveda gives a lot of that in the world, and I believe that this is a sector, because there is a preventive side and there is a curative side. And of course, prevention is always much better than cure, because even if you look at it from the economic side, it's much cheaper than it is if you have to cure something. But to prevent, you need to know the principle and you need to know what you're talking about. So unless you have something that you're looking up at, you don't know how to prevent, because you need to know what the status of health is so that you will prevent it. Now, to go to the expansion of Ayurveda, which is called holistic medicine in Europe, not only in the West, um, this is something that can be further looked upon. And this combines also the health with the knowledge. And that and there, India has to give a lot. And if we can, there are people that started coming and bringing these ideas of this Vedic knowledge in the West since the 60s, and in some cases even before. And now, because of the easy communication between countries and with all this, technology, that can, of course, come into the other parts of the world easier and better. But just people need to understand that, because there is a lot of mistrust in things that are not tangible and classical. So people do not really understand that there are other levels of existence except of the material level. And you will not find too many people that are in a position to understand and accept it. So that needs also education. And I think that this is a very important aspect. And if it develops, it will be developed for the good of everyone in the globe. I could talk more about it, but I think that it's enough for an introduction. We can probably talk another time about it. And I just want to give you a small example. A friend of mine of a certain age and her husband in mid late 80s, and she is early, um, suffered COVID without knowing it. And because they didn't know, and because they are versed into things that have to do with physical treatment, they just thought that it was a weakness. They used some herbs, they used, until they had to travel. And about 20, 30 days later, they had to take a test. And they found out that they went through COVID because the one was still positive. So that proves to me that there are ways of fighting the virus if you really stick to the things that are natural. Because age does not matter. He was 86 and she was almost 80. And they overcame with problems, other problems of health, just because they used natural ingredients. I'm not a doctor, medical doctor, but I have, spent a lot of time looking into it. And I believe that it's very important, because the person is the best doctor of itself. So it is very important that people understand a few things about health, no matter where they stand. no matter what kind of profession they have, because this is going to help the people themselves, the societies, the families, and then at the end, the globe.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Now, of course, last portion is Indo EU starting as a Indo Greece. How do we feel that this will really attract the investment? It will attract to make Greece as the pathway to the European market, pathway to African market, because then India and Greece can dream of whatever $1 trillion and more than that, if it can succeed. Otherwise, it will only be on paper. So, what is the advice with a senior person like Basil would have? Later, I would like your comments also, madam. And so, Basil, in what way do you think we can conclude our discussion in terms of an Indo EU starting as a Indo Greece for the
Uh,
growth of both the countries?
yeah. First of all, I would like to say that Greece is a gate for India to Europe because it's a very flexible country. Of course, it has a lot of civil servants, and this is another problem. But this is a problem of Europe, not of Greece. We are a continent of civil servants. We have to go through that. But I think that if I can a little bit return on the subject, which is the coronavirus crisis, I believe that this is a great liability, but at the same time, it can become a great asset because for success, we have to turn liabilities into assets. Now, new professions can be created, new ideas can be launched, new the people will have to take a new way of life. This will create opportunities, opportunities for business, opportunities for hardworking people like people in India and like people in Greece. If we join forces on this matter, we can really produce things and not only join forces in labor matters, but also in intellectual issues. You have to offer, we have to offer, we have offered a lot to humanity as well as you have offered a lot of humanity. So we have to find new activities, we have to find new ideas, we have to find together new ways of life. This is all what I wanted to say. Please.
What is your comment, madam, of an Indo-Greece, Indo-EU uh, partnership for global reincarnation?
Well, I think that at this moment, which is important, we are facing a country that, as you said, and as Mr. Koronakis said, is a gate to Europe and other continents, but has been somehow de-industrialized. And of course, industry is the main thing in production. Now, India, on the other side, has the possibility and also has shown to the world that they are excellent manufacturers in many fields. Now, if we bring into Greece Indian business people that can team up with Greek business people, and we look into things that can be produced here with the new technologies and can also not only be sold in this country but in Europe and other countries, then we can have a win-win situation and we can have a very interesting, way of producing products and goods for Europe and also maybe, some of the other countries in the other continents. And this also will help um, in sort of creating a different kind of freer legislation in this country so that uh, people are not penalized out of taxation for their creativity and production. Maybe I should add here that the backbone of prosperity into a country is the tax system. And today in the world, we have a big problem with taxation because people are taxed for their production and their product. And this creates a lot of distortions in everything. There is an effort the last 100 years and more to bring the right just system into the world. And this system gives to the governments the right income without penalizing people for their production, work, and the result of their work. And this is called land value tax. People can go and search into it and they will find a lot of input for that way of taxation. And there are many scholars worldwide that have put efforts in explaining why the system is just. I'm not going to go into that now because it will take us, longer. But it's very important for even politicians, but simple people to understand this point that taxation or non-taxation is the backbone of the development of economy in a country. And if people can look and apply this system that is the just system for the income of the governments, then many of the distortions that are happening in the world today into countries will go and fall into the place by their own. It's like a key, in every sector, you have a key that if you find it and you turn it, then everything else falls into place. Because if you try to mend things, as one of the people that is my teacher and says for today's world, is that when you start and you say 1 and 1 equals 3, then you start in a wrong base. And from there on, everything else that you do is based on the wrong substratum. So you have to go back and see 1 and 1 equals 2 so that you will look into it. Because if you try to mend 3, then everything else falls into the wrong perspective. So people should look back into, again, the real values into a society. And if we have a just system in the things that have to do with the taxation, then without giving names to systems, all these different, sort of democratic systems, etc. If you touch the right thing into the backbone of the economy, then, people will feel happier and products and services for the people will be better and cheaper, and maybe they will look into other things in a better way that has to do with their own development.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. You'd like to say something before I conclude, Mr. Basil?
No, I wanted to thank you very much. I wanted to tell you that New Europe could be the communication platform of India to the European Union. We are 27 years there and we are very well respected, and we have our center of power. We are a powerhouse, and we would like to share with you, with India, and see what we can do, because if we bring people together, the problems will be resolved easier. That's it. And thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Just to conclude with whatever takeaways for this program is that, yes, India and EU has to collaborate, and Greece could be a very, very good starting point because there is a synergy. Both are having a good past experience of being the world leaders. And also in today's case, thinking is something good. And where that 1+1 11 syndrome can happen between Greece and India, and through Greece to Europe and Africa. One small point which you had mentioned, which also I had mentioned in my presentation, in terms of the taxing and others. Yes, when the taxes, yes, every industry suffers. Now, the small system by which I was also introduced, the secured governance, that takes care of this whole thing in an absolutely different way. There, the taxes will almost disappear. Here, through valuation, the government will anyway get more than what it is doing by taxing. And the people also, that means each is not putting the money in other person's pocket. Neither the government has to put in this pocket, nor in many places, government get dried out by the incentive they give and they become corporate and somebody else become. Here it is the system which gains, and through that both the industry and the government gains. That is what is secured governance. It is same. It's an extension of the value-based tax. It is more of a valuation which plays a key role. That 1+1 syndrome, if you have to say, suppose a road is to be made, the road is 1. And when the road is being made, it becomes 11. As we all know, immediate valuation goes up. So in that 11, tax also can come where the government also has to survive. The person who is doing this also gets major portion of his profit from there. That's not the agenda for today, but that gives a results to both, because when we know there's a problem which is going to be tomorrow again, if the tax on the whole industry falls down, then nobody is going to like this experiment. So first only we can introduce based on this valuation based work, and India and Greek should collaborate in a very, very good way, because Indians have quite a good name. Today we know that in even US, if an Indian is there on the board, almost the stock prices go up 40-50%. And most of the CEOs there are today Indians, and many things have started. And Indians are a humble people. They are not one of those bro beaters. They are always on feet on the ground type entrepreneurs. And it will be a very good beginning for this. And it will really become a $1 trillion economy between and growing, to make not only India, Greece, and Europe grow, to make the world grow in a very, very positive and a progressive way. With that, I'll conclude today's thing, and Akram can give the final vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shekhar. I'm a student of your concept, Dr. Shekhar's concept of secured governance, and I'm still learning that how secured governance, the very idea and architecture of secured governance, gives a solution to the ongoing problems, economic problems that the world is facing. And I think, and I hope and wish that one day secured governance post COVID will be one of the most sought after policy strategy for countries to implement and recover from this. And I just, for our European friends, I want to say, though I'm too young, your kids' age, that India, what I have seen in my life, is one of the best countries to be friend with, to do business with, and to deal with. Because India perhaps is the only country on earth which only gives to others. It never takes. You do business with Chinese, you do business with other countries, but you will clearly feel, especially from the Southeast Asia, that your portion of gain will always be lower than their portion of gain. So they will only take from you. That I have experienced, I have seen, and I have observed. But India is the only country which has sacrificed lands in last 70 years. No country in South Asia and Southeast Asia has sacrificed lands for peace. India is the only country in last 70 years with happy and smile it has given lands. So imagine a country which can give lands to others, what kind of mentality, attitude it keeps. Yes, things are slow, but it has immense resources. It has a huge human capital, and the EU, European Union, has space, lands, and amazing technology, and all the infrastructure. It is European Union which led, or European countries which led industrialization to the world, and it has huge to offer. India, I mean, in a different way, EU needs India, India also needs EU. If we can do a partnership, I think this partnership will be peaceful, mutually beneficial, and progressive. So Policy Times, as a policy and progress platform, and a believing in the philosophy of policy and progress, promoting developmental journalism, would be extremely delighted to promote relations between India and Europe. And we wish to see that past 70 years is gone. In next 70 years, EU and India become such uh, unconditional partner for world peace and world growth that the entire world will be a witness to it. with this, by thanking to all our experts, viewers, keep watching.